Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
everyone.
Hello.
Hello, καλησπέρα σας.
Καλησπέρα.
Καλησπέρα σας, καλησπέρα σε όλους. Παίρνουμε με κλειστά τα μικρόφωνα, παρακαλώ πολύ, ή αν αλλιώς μπορεί να το ρυθμίσει κεντρικά ο συνάδελφός μου η Νάσια. Καλησπέρα σε όλους. Hello, welcome. We're leaving some more minutes so that everyone enters and joins the call. Hello, good afternoon. Hello, everyone. Just one more minute. I think we should be ready to start, and I would kindly please ask for my colleague Nasia to allow everyone who is joining with a small delay. Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Nickoletta. I'm the Executive Director of the Cyclades Preservation Fund, and on behalf of my team and all the members of our organization, I would like to warmly welcome you to this new series of webinars by the Cyclades Preservation Funds for people who want to learn how to have a more positive ecological impact on the islands, actually people like you. So we really thank you for being here today with us. These English-speaking webinars take place in the context of the CPF initiative, which is called Green Volunteers in the Cyclades, which is co-funded by So visitors and short-term residents like you are also invited to become volunteers through small or big actions that support local champions and local organizations who in turn share their experience and wisdom through a series of webinars they're organizing this spring, starting from today. For you to have the big picture, I'm gonna host 4 webinars within February and March. Today, this is the first one, focusing on marine life, lessons and actions for the Aegean Sea. The second one will take place on the 1st of March and will focus on the lands. This has to do with all the love we have for the Cycladic nature. The third webinar will be hosted on 15th of March, and it focuses on local participation, how we need to respect the place we live on. And the fourth one focuses on eco-visitors, how we can give back to the islands that we love. And this will take place on the 29th of March. All will be online webinars. Just to clarify that the idea to give the necessary resources to interested visitors and seasonal residents of the Cyclades in order for them to become volunteers for the protection and sustainable management of the natural environment in the Cyclades has been our vision since the beginning. With more experience and understanding of the needs of our local partners now, after 5 years of operation and work in the Cyclades, it has become clear that on one hand, a need for committed volunteers and supporters to make their long-term efforts a reality and allow local initiatives to grow. And on the other hand, a need for more informed visitors and residents about how they can really support local initiatives and protect the natural environment by making the right choices when it matters the most. Just to say that the CPF, to introduce ourselves in case we don't know about us, the CPF has been established as a UK-based registered charity back in 2017, in October of 2017. Since 2021, we have been operating now as a Greek non-for-profit association. What we do is that we focus on developing from the bottom up and on empowering the local communities. We are here to listen and help these people of the Cycladic Islands with initiatives that they themselves are starting, as well as to offer capacity when and where needed. So at the CPF, we raise funds from individuals and businesses that care about the Cycladic Islands' future, actually like you, and we support conservation projects of local entities. So we make sure that we direct appropriately these funds by supporting the most effective preservation projects and campaigns. In 5 years of activity, more than 500,000 euros have been invested in more than 65 environmental initiatives in collaboration with more than 40 local partners of the CPF in 20 Cycladic islands. And of course, there is still much work to be done. You can learn more by visiting our website at cycladespreservationfund.org. I don't want to take more time, just to share also a short message from the British Embassy in Athens. I'm going to read some lines. So, dear speakers and participants, we are very excited to be working with the Cyclades Preservation Fund and all of you on our Green Volunteers project, which has successfully entered its 2nd year. Last year's program was designed to enable Greek and British volunteers to support the Cycladic environmental organization for a period for up to 2 weeks. This year, we would like to mobilize a wider community of environmentally engaged English-speaking individuals living permanently or on visiting the Cyclades, including, of course, British nationals, to become sustainability champions and multipliers of green best practice. We hope that the 4 webinars will support you in acquiring the necessary skill set and inspire you to contribute to local sustainability efforts. We further hope that our project will lay the ground for an ever-expanding pool of green volunteers, will connect sustainability champions from the Cyclades and the UK, and will make sure that the bilateral and multilateral partnerships created are sustained beyond the lifetime of this initiative. Wishing you all a good season. That was a few lines by Dr. Maria Parlou, the policy officer by the British Embassy Athens. I think now it's the time, with ending the short, I hope, welcome speech from the CPF, to introduce you the facilitator for the webinar today, which is Mr. Vangelis Paravas. He's an expert and consultant for the CPF on marine biodiversity conservation. He will be facilitating, as I said, the webinar and giving us an introduction to the key characteristics of the Aegean marine life. I really wish you to enjoy the webinar, stay with us. And as a last word, just to allow me please to thank my colleagues, Mrs. Dorothy Filiotis and Mrs. Nasia Kasela for their excellent work for organizing everything. Thank you very much for having you today. Vangelis.
Hello, Annie. Thank you for the introduction and everything. It's great to have this series of webinars for the Cyclades. I hope you all hear me very well. Okay. So we're going to have a series of webinars on focusing mostly on the marine environment in this session. I suppose that all of us participating in this have a knowledge of the Aegean archipelago in Greece. It's of course a top touristic destination with millions of visitors every year, which of course has its repercussions, not only because of tourism, but because of this very long presence of human beings in this area of the Mediterranean Sea. So some few information about the Cyclades. It's an archipelago, more than 220 islands, and many thousands of islets in this part of the Aegean Sea, out of which 27 are inhabited. Biodiversity in the Cyclades area is really important, unique, where many threatened, vulnerable and charismatic species are found, both in the marine environment and the terrestrial one. Like marine mammals, monk seals, one of the most endangered species in the world, but also cetaceans, marine reptiles, sharks, rays, and of course, over the last decades, we have, and more recently, we have a lot of newcomers coming from the Red Sea as invasive and alien species that also take their toll from our seas as well. So, having this in mind, and also the fact that most of the threats that all these species and habitats face are caused actually from human activities like overfishing, plastic pollution, unregulated coastal development, change of land uses, over-exploitation of natural resources, constantly increasing underwater noise, and many other human activities that still are unregulated, we do need to act in order to promote nature conservation. And this is not only something that only experts or organizations or institutions that have this capacity can carry out, but also every one of us can take some action and move forward in order to preserve this unique natural thing we have in our country and in the Cyclades. We do have protected areas in the Cyclades. Apparently, around 31 Natura 2000 sites, both for wild birds and species and habitats, have been designated. However, still there is a lot of work to be carried out for the future. And in this context, the experts that will present their presentations in a short time will give you more information and more ideas and small or large activities that could be carried out in order to move forward in this direction. Our first presenter is Dr. Maria Salomidi, a researcher from the Hellenic Center for Marine Research, and she's going to give us a presentation on the unique importance of the endemic Mediterranean plant, which is known as Neptune's grass, or Posidonia oceanica. I think that you will find this presentation fascinating. There are a lot of things that we do not know as commoners, as laymen, regarding this plant, which is not a seaweed, it's a plant actually. But I will give the floor to her so she can present it in more detail. Please have in mind that we will have a dedicated session after the presentation for questions and answers. You can raise your hand, and also I would also encourage you to write in the chat for more questions on this. Thank you, and Maria, you have the floor.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So I really want to thank the organizers and all the so many participants for being here today and expressing this great interest for the marine environment. So I hope you can now see the full screen presentation. My name is Maria Salomidi. I'm a researcher, marine ecologist at the Institute of Oceanography of the Hellenic Center for Marine Research. And I'm here today to share with you part of our knowledge and concerns about a very, very vulnerable ecosystem, both for the sea and for the coastal beach environments. So Posidonia oceanica. Let me give you some straight facts about this very important species. This is a Mediterranean endemic species, which means that it is only to be found in the Mediterranean Sea, nowhere else, this particular species. And it is not an algae as many people would think, but it is rather a marine flowering plant. I will try to elaborate more about this in the next slides. It is also called a seagrass. It is normally to be found in typical seawater conditions. It needs, typical seawater salinity. You will not find it close to river mouths or where fresh water is discharged in the sea. Very important for producing O2, as any plant is known to do. Very important also as a plant for uptaking, binding CO2, carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, but also for burying it in the sediment and keeping it there forever. And this is why this is very well known as a blue carbon ecosystem, as these ecosystems are called. It is a habitat former, not just a species. Where it occurs, it creates extensive meadows, normally in sandy bays, with good water renewal and at a wide depth range, which may reach up to 45 meters depth in very, very clear waters, as you would expect in all around Greece, but especially around the Cyclades Islands. Now, this habitat shelters, feeds, and supports a very rich and abundant biodiversity, both underwater and at land. Healthy Posidonia meadows are indicators of good water quality. It is, for us, this is a very important information. And they also act as a natural seawater cleaning filter. They rank among the most valuable and productive ecosystems worldwide and are recognized as a habitat type of conservation priority for the EU under the Habitats Directive. So here is a schematic representation of some distinct features of the differences between algae and seagrasses. And what you need to know is that algae are very, very primitive organisms, and they are only to be found in the water. You do not have algae on land. Plants, on the other hand, are actually only to be found on land because this is where they evolved. They evolved on the land, and this is why they have roots and rhizomes, so as to be able to absorb nutrients from the sediment. And they first evolved on the land, and seagrasses are part of that group of plants that at some point, about 100 million years ago, that is very, very long time, they moved back into the sea. So it's a very nice analog to the marine cetaceans, which were also terrestrial animals before again returning to the sea. And so they took along with them features that normally would not occur underwater, like rhizome, roots, leaves, flowers, and seeds. These are very, very distinct features of plants. And here you can see this very nice picture, and I have to thank my colleague Yannis Ciceris for at least the most beautiful pictures that you will see in this presentation. Here you can see how Posidonia flower will look like. You not expect to find very impressive colors or smells or anything, because the seagrasses do not need to attract pollinators, bees or other insects to reproduce. So they only have very discreet flowers cannot actually be easily discerned unless the observer knows how to look for them. Here is a close-up picture, but you will not see this in the first place. This is how Posidonia flower looks like, and this is from my friend Zenobia only this November, where in Kalymnos Island, where some seagrass meadows flowered. And here is how Posidonia fruit would look like, very much like an olive, like an olive actually. So this is how the fruit will get transferred by the sea, by waves and currents. At some point it will sink down at the sea bottom, and if conditions are good, it will sprout into a new plant that may hopefully eventually form a new meadow from the start. Here is how a sandy seabed would look like, and then you have Posidonia meadow, which looks like a jungle, in comparison. You can see these very rich and dense canopies. They can host and support a great variety of biodiversity. Many species are to be found within these meadows. 1 hectare may support a biomass of over 15 tons of dry weight, and over 2,000 species have been recorded within these meadows. So you understand how important they are, biodiversity hotspots in the Mediterranean Sea. Also a very crucial habitat for several threatened and protected species, like the marine turtles we will be talking about, or the Mediterranean shark, or fish species like the seahorses, and also for Pinna nobilis, a very important marine species that is now very close to extinction. And I just take this chance to let you know that we're losing this species. If you ever come to meet a live Pinna nobilis, we very much look forward to such an information. Please contact us. So we mentioned that Posidonia also safeguards marine water quality, and there has been a very interesting publication that shows that where you have a seagrass meadow, you can have up to 50% reduction of pathogenic bacteria, which means that even if we pollute the coast where we have seagrass meadows, we expect them to fend off against this pollution. Now, this is a picture that is not easy for anyone to see, because this formation is not always exposed. Normally, these formations are just buried under the sediments, but here you have this exposed face, and you can see what a Posidonia meadow actually looks underneath. You can see that it is a reef-building species. All this is carbon packed under the sediments. Very, very important function against climate change. And now let me show you some very interesting ways in how the Posidonia meadows can protect our shores and the beaches that we love to enjoy during the summer months. So for once, what Posidonia does is act like a wave breaker. The wave energy comes towards the shore, so it first meets this reef system, this dense foliage, which absorbs this wave energy, and the waves that eventually reach the shore are much milder. So this is the direct way, but there is also this very interesting indirect way of doing it. So we said it's a plant. It's actually a deciduous plant, which means that it regularly sheds its leaves, produces young leaves, and the older ones wither and fall. So you have dead leaves drifting around, and depending on weather conditions or the orientation of your beads, they may accumulate at times at shore, and they can form these very beautiful accumulations which catch on the shore, and they pack the sediment grains, protecting it from waves and swells. And these formations are called Posidonia bunkets. So here is a schematic representation of this function. You can see how the Posidonia meadow actually forms these biogenic reefs, creates these shelter environments where dead leaves are accumulated and finally form these bunkets. And these bunkets actually, they don't just stop there at the sea-land interface, but they can have a very important effect on the upper horizons of the beads. Like you can see here how they actually build the beads. They are part of the building material of the beads itself, and they actually water and fertilize the sand. They create some very important, valuable sand dune ecosystems, and help support a very, very unique biodiversity. Now, although Posidonia meadows are rather well studied and acknowledged for their numerous and valuable ecosystem services, Posidonia bunkets are far less studied, understood, and appreciated. And we need to start with the fact that when you see this, this is a very nice aerial picture from a drone, and you can see here this black spot, which might look very scary, but it's actually a Posidonia meadow. So no matter what we have been thinking so far, we need to know that the presence of Posidonia meadow on our shore signals bathing waters of good quality. So if we had a bias against Posidonia, now we really need to be able to reconsider. Posidonia bunkets are a valuable coastal asset, as we said. They prevent beach erosion. They are a source of nutrients and carbon. They help form the beads and dunes and fertilize them, and also give rise to a unique biodiversity. Working within the InterrEdMed PostMed project, we did a survey among beach users, and what we actually noticed is that a mean percentage of 41% of beach users claim to be disturbed by the presence of bunkets on beaches. This is a very sad finding, especially when seeing that Greece and France were among the most negatively predisposed countries. A very, very sad and paradox finding. The worst about this finding is that, over-perceived by beach managers, this bias drives highly destructive beach cleaning practices. So beach managers will, engage tractors and heavy machinery. They will to remove these bunkets and actually take them and dispose them in landfills. A very, very problematic practice. We know that bunket removal may result in the subtraction of hundreds of cubic meters of sediment. We actually destroy our beaches by doing this. And this is why it is very important for people to know what is happening. We have created some very informative posters about this, and I here provide some links that might be able to also copy on the chat afterwards, where you can find some posters. Maybe you can share them somehow, your places where if you see that such practices are being such practices are applied on your beach. There is a very strict, considering that most marine ecosystems are highly neglected, there is a very good legislative framework that protects Posidonia meadows, although it's not so easily enforced. This is something that we also need to keep in mind. But Posidonia is a highly protected marine species and habitat. Several ongoing threats and pressures are going against this valuable ecosystem. Within the last years, regressions up to 34% have been estimated for Posidonia seagrass beds. And let me give you the example, give you some of the most important pressures. Of course, pollution, which causes turbidity and eutrophication, are one of the worst enemies of Posidonia. It needs clarity, it needs light, as any plant would. So anything that causes turbidity in the sea is a problem for the plant. Mechanical destruction is another very important threat. Coastal works, trawling activities, any marine debris on the seabed, they can destroy the seabeds, and it is very difficult for them to restore after this. Thankfully, there has been great effort in trying to map the seabeds, at least in a large scale, so that we know that this whole area has Posidonia meadows, and we cannot trawl in this area, we cannot build, make a coastal, like a marina or a port, without taking into consideration the presence of these valuable habitats. So this is something that at least gradually is going to the right direction. But then there is this other very important threat, again, mechanical destruction, but due to uncontrolled anchoring of boats. Now, we have several data showing that over 66% of Posidonia meadows may present signs of deterioration due to mechanical impacts. And we also know, based on satellite image analysis, that the recreational boat anchoring over this seagrass bed is very extensive and seasonally very intensive pressure across Greece, also across the Mediterranean, but for Greece for sure. And this is why we needed to call for action. We had the valuable support of the European Commission in organizing an ad hoc meeting to discuss on these matters. And this is how we got in contact with the Cyclades Preservation Fund and took it further away on finding solutions how to manage this problem. We have started some more high resolution approaches in where the impact is, and we are now in the process of finding ways to inform people and give them a way of how to help against this threat. So just keep in mind you will be finding soon, I hope, some information points, some mooring points. This Posidonia Alert project that we have started in collaboration with CPF will try to inform citizens on how to avoid Posidonia anchoring in Posidonia meadows. And eventually we also try to shift from the traditional destructive mooring practices and turn to more eco-mooring approaches, with the first target to actually install eco-moorings in this Cyclades, starting from Anaxos, but also hoping to expand more. So I hope I have not taken up much of your time. Thank you very much for your attention. I don't know if I have left time for questions.
Let's have the video first, I think. Thank you, Maria. It was excellent. And then we can have some questions that are already placed in the chat. And if somebody wants to ask something directly, then we can do it. So see the video, and then we have the question and answer on this session. Okay. Maria, thank you very much for this presentation, and also the video was really, really nice. And we do have some questions on the Posidonia meadows and your presentation. I think that they are very to the point. So I'm just reading from the chat for the moment. So on what depth is the Posidonia flower to be found? I think you can read them also from the chat, so I don't know if I need to read them all aloud.
Please do, so that the recording, Vangelis, helps us
okay.
afterwards. Thank you.
Let's go for the first one. That is what depth is the Posidonia flower to be found?
Okay, the Posidonia flower may be found at any depth. We have seen it from like 4 or 5 meters at the upper limit of the meadow, and down to 20 meters for sure. But I'm not aware of some link between flowering and depth. As long as the meadows are healthy, normally they should flower at any depth and produce seeds at any plant. Posidonia plant can do it as long as it is healthy. So I've also been going through this several questions, which are very, very interesting. Thank you very much. Yeah, also there is a question about the color. Yes, of course, it has been answered partly that the color may may vary very much according to how young is the leaf. The younger it is, the more brighter, the more olive green. But when it gets older, it can be darker and darker, and in the end, it will become brown, like the ones that are cast ashore. But also, there are many, many epiphytes, some of them only to be found on Posidonia. So depending on what is growing on the leaves, you can see different colors that may vary, but these are not the leaves colors. These are colors of other organisms living on it. Then we have report practices of Posidonia cleanings. This is a very, very painful issue here in Greece. Normally, you cannot clean the beach by using heavy machinery by law. You cannot have, how can I say, cars or other vehicles are not allowed to go on the beach. So when you see any vehicle, especially a heavy vehicle on the beach, you can always report this at the local port authorities. Now, sometimes the town hall, the local authorities, the municipalities may be doing it themselves. Still, this does not mean that they are legal. So reporting it is always an idea that might be helpful in the end, because it will, if someone goes through the legislation, will finally find out that this should not be allowed without a special license. So reporting it is always a good idea.
One small, I would like to intervene that heavy machinery, tractors and bulldozers are not allowed in the beaches, not only because of the removal of Posidonia bunkets, but also because it destroys actually the beach itself. So the dunes are being destroyed by these kind of vehicles. So this is what actually is being prohibited by law.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so other questions. If we have citizen science projects, citizen science projects to document or study or save, not exactly. It's not so easy for us to organize such networks, but we'll very much look possible collaborations, and especially in collaboration with the CPF. We do not have something built and ready yet, but we very much think about building such collaborations. And as my dear friend Valerie Vasiliko says, the Greek government, although we have tried to inform them in every way, we have provided them with all our reports, all our studies, and all our information gathered through the post-BMED projects. They do not seem to take this into serious consideration, so we need to keep pressing. Now I have some. Sorry, I have some. We are connected to the Posidonia network. It was triggered by this Anchors Away meeting that I mentioned in my presentation, and we are very proud about this. This is what triggered the formation of the Posidonia network. So we are in close collaboration and try to find ways of having all the countries working together at the cause of protecting Posidonia from anchoring and any other threats. We do not have, at least to my knowledge, we do not have eco-moorings in place in Greece. And if we have, I wouldn't know, because there is no the right legislative framework for doing so. So it is a real it is actually very, very difficult at this time to go install eco-moorings, because the legislative framework is very complicated. this would be a total discussion from the start, but this is what we try to do with the CPF in the first place. Try to find a way of how to do the right thing with a legislative framework that is against this. It's not easy to install any mooring, not just an eco mooring. So we're trying to find a way to persuade people that an eco mooring is not the same and should be treated with a different processes. Now, what are that will help a seagrass fruit to sprout? For a seagrass fruit to sprout, of course, it needs to find a sheltered place where it will not get drifted away by waves. So if it ends up somewhere close to the beach, which is very shallow, the waves will never let it sit down and grow. So it is just a matter of chance. If it gets somewhere entangled between a stone or another seagrass meadow or something that will keep it steady at first, this will help it sprout. It needs, of course, very good clarity, good quality, water quality. So these are a must for every Posidonia plant. But for a new fruit to sprout, a new seed to sprout, it needs to somehow get attached or find a shelter place that will not drift it around. And I don't know if there are other questions.
There are many, yeah. So one is that what I saw, it's how much do they leave Posidonia plants? I think that this would be interesting to describe that they're living for maybe centuries as well, and this could be interesting.
The meadows may last forever because the plants regenerate themselves once in a while. Each plant may live for several years, but the meadow is there for hundreds of years. You can see meadows that are very, very old, and if you need to apply very particular scientific methodologies for this. You can find how old the whole system is. So this depends very much again on local, and every meadow has its own story. Normally, a Posidonia meadow should be there forever through our life. So if a meadow is destroyed, it's something that we did. It can go on for many, many years ahead. Also, there is a question about the effect of sunscreens. Yeah, this is a very interesting one, of course, because sunscreens, what they do, they block the sunlight. And so if you block the sunlight, then you prevent the organisms that need the sunlight to survive. There have not been such research in Greek waters, to the best of my knowledge, but this should be relevant also. And this is a very difficult issue to tackle because we know that sunscreens are very much promoted for the protection of humans. So this is very, very tricky. It's not, however, like we've seen Posidonia seagrass meadows being, deteriorated in places where you have many bathers so far, so as to get into this suspicion. But it is something that we need to always keep an eye on.
Maria, maybe we can have a short break because we need to move to the next presenter. And in the end of all presentation, we will have a dedicated time to have some extra discussion on all presentations. So it's a very interesting issue, and I also have some very many questions to do to you, but I think that we could have a short break for 5 minutes and come back to have the next presentation like in 5 to 5. Is it okay for everybody?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. break. I hope you did have some time to grab a coffee or something, but let's move forward because we have many other interesting and very informative things to discuss and listen to. So I would like to present Mrs. Nickoletta Sidiropoulou. She's from iSea, a Greek environmental organization for the preservation of the aquatic ecosystems. iSea is based in Thessaloniki. However, its work and efforts are throughout Greece and the seas, the Greek seas, and is working with many different aspects and issues regarding marine conservation, one of which is tackling the issue of invasive alien species. iSea has carried out many projects over the last years in the Cyclades regarding the EAS issue, so I would invite her to present to us what the efforts have been and what can we do regarding this huge pressure on the marine environment we have in front of us.
Thank you, Vangelis, and I would also like to thank our hosts for this beautiful initiative, and of course all of you for being so interested in the marine ecosystems. So now we'll share my presentation. Is it okay? Can you all see it?
Yes, but just put it on presentation mode, full screen mode, because now we just see the, the
I have
PowerPoint.
already.
You have already.
I've done that already. It's not uploaded yet in full mode.
Okay, let's wait. No, it's not still in full mode, but if you zoom your, we can read it, but we can also see, all the other part of PowerPoint. So this is the only thing.
Okay, let me just try that again.
Try to do it. Yeah.
Is it okay now?
Perfect, yes.
Good. So hello everybody, I'm Nickoletta Sidiropoulou. I'm a marine biologist, and today I'm gonna talk a bit about the project Pick the Alien and about alien species in general. Pick the Alien is a project that has been running for 3 years now. It has all started in the Cyclades, actually, and Cyclades Preservation Fund was our first collaborators and funders in this whole mission about the alien species and how we can tackle some of their impacts. Its main cause is to basically promote a more responsible consumption of fish and seafood in general, by promoting the consumption of marine edible alien species. Doesn't want to change. Okay. I also want to share a few things about iSea. iSea, as Vangelis said, is an environmental organization for the preservation of aquatic ecosystems. All of our actions fall under 4 main pillars, which are vulnerable species, citizen science, aquatic litter, and the interaction of humans with the aquatic ecosystems, which is the pillar in which the project Pick the Alien falls under. A few words about alien species. Alien species are all organisms, either plants or animals, that can be found in areas that extend beyond their natural range, and it is usually a result of human activities. And when we're talking about marine alien species and human activities, we're talking about shipping, aquaculture, and the opening of the Suez Canal. They are considered to be one of the main threats for the loss of biodiversity. They cause problems to local marine ecosystems, but they also have effects on the local economy and human health. On the table on the left-hand side, you can see how much it costs actually to counteract some of the impacts that they're having. And we can see that only in Europe, it costs around 12 billions per year. And if we see it in a global scale, it can go up to 1 trillion per year. Greece is actually one of the most affected countries, and by now we have more than 270 marine alien species recorded in our seas. But what are the reasons of their expansion? We have the Lessepian species. Lessepian species are all the species that have come from the Suez Canal, especially during the last decades that the Suez Canal have deepened and it has been more wide. The income, let's say, of alien species has increased. Another reason is climate change. We all know that the sea temperature of the Mediterranean is rising. And when we're talking about species that have come from the Red Sea, we're talking about species that are accustomed to warm waters. So as you can understand, if the sea temperature in the Mediterranean is rising, then it is more easy for these new species to come and invade this novel environment. Another reason is overexploitation. The Mediterranean Sea is the most overexploited sea worldwide. By overfishing, we are reducing basically possible predators of these new species, of these invaders that are coming to our waters. We are causing ecosystem disturbance. We are decreasing the competition, and usually alien species are the winners from all that. Here we have an example of how fast an expansion can be, and we have the example of lionfish. Lionfish was first recorded off the coast of Israel in 1991. In 2015, it was recorded in Rhodes Island in Greece, which is in the southern Aegean. And in only 7 years, 6 to 7 years, it has reached up to the Ionian Sea, up to Corfu, and we have seen that it has already reached the middle of the Adriatic. And in 2022, we also had records of lionfish in Chalkidiki, which is in the northern part of the Aegean, very close to Salomidi. These are some of the alien species that we can find in Greek waters. And as I mentioned before, alien species are not only fish, they can be mollusks, they can be crustaceans, they can be types of algae. So yeah. And let's focus more to the Cyclades region. We're going to see some of the most common alien species of the Cyclades Islands. On the left side, we have the blue-spotted cornetfish, Fistularia. On the right side, you can see the very impressive lionfish. On the upper left side, we have the long-spined urchin, and then the two fish are the dusky and the white spinefoots. The blue-spotted cornetfish was first recorded in the Mediterranean in 1999, and 1 year later it came to Greece. It can reach up to 1.6 meters in length, and has already been recorded in the Cyclades, Dodecanese, Crete, and the Ionian Seas. Spinefoots, as I mentioned before, we have two different species, Cyganus rivulatus and Cyganus luridus. Its expansion is also very wide. We can find in all Greek seas. In Cyprus, they are considered a delicacy and they have a quite high market value. However, in Greece, because there is no consumption, fishermen usually discard them when they catch them. There are some islands, especially in the northern Aegean, that people are consuming them, but still their consumption is at very low levels. They do contain a small quantity of poison on their spines, but once they are cleaned, they are perfectly fine to be consumed. Lionfish, as I said before, first reckoned in 2015. It does have 18 venomous spines. It does contain poison in those spines. Again, like the spine food species, it is very safe to consume it. However, it needs a lot of care when we are cutting its spines. It is considered one of the most invasive species worldwide. It has invaded already the US. And as we said before, its expansion rates regarding the Greek seas, at least, is both in the Aegean and the Ionian. But what are they causing? What are the problems that they are causing? First off, they're causing major problems to the ecosystems. We have ecosystem degradation. They can displace native species. They can cause loss of genotypes. They modify the habitats that they live in. They can change the community structure, but they can also change the food web and the community properties. Their impacts are not just in the aquatic environment. They have impacts in the economy, but also the tourist sector. First off, they reduce the native species stock. They can create major loss in aquaculture production, and they cause damage to the fishing gear. In the pictures on the right, you can see on the top one, it's nets with blue crabs. Blue crabs have actually come from the Atlantic. They have very strong claws, so they can actually cut the nets of aquaculture, and they prey on the fish and the mussels that are caught on the nets. Another major impact is in human health, and we're talking here about the toxic species that we are having, and it's the Lykouropoulou species and pufferfish. Here you can see two Greek newspapers. It's from previous years. It's from, I think, 2018 and 2021, where people had to be rushed to the hospital after consumption of pufferfish. In Greece, we have 4 species of the Lykouropoulou genus and 2 species of pufferfish that they are sometimes mentioned as Lykouropoulos. All of them are toxic. Their toxins are also in their flesh. So in no way we are promoting their consumption. Actually, it's illegal to sell and consume pufferfish. And here we can see some pictures of some of the species of the pufferfish that we've got. The venomous ones, as I said before, lionfish and spinefoots do have venom on their spines. We do need to be careful when we're cleaning them because if we get stung, it's going to be a quite painful sting. But other than that, they are very safe to be consumed and they're actually very tasty. On the bottom right corner, you can see the strip-gill catfish. It's a kind of species that has come also from the Red Sea. It has not been recorded in the Greek seas. However, we do have records from the coast of Turkey. So unfortunately, we don't think it's going to be too long until the first records are being in, the first records will happen also in Greece. Citizens can participate in scientific research, and actually it's very important. Their participation is very important. And from citizen science, we have already recorded 11 new alien species, 4 of them in the Mediterranean, 5 in Greece, and 2 of them in Cyprus. But from what I know, Dorothy will share a bit more about citizen science, so I'm not going to elaborate more on that. Another way to tackle the issue of invasive species is by starting to be creative with them. In Cyprus, I think they have started 2 or 3 years ago. They are making handmade jewelries usually from the spines of the lionfish, and they are selling them. Second way is targeted fishing. It's very important. Right now, we are underway on a pilot use of lionfish traps. We have gotten the patent from US, and it is the first time that these traps are going to be tested in the Mediterranean in cooperation with professional fishers. They have been tested in the US and also in Turkey, but they have been tested from scientists, and that's why we're saying it's the first time they're going to be in cooperation with professional fishers. They're specially designed in order to attract lionfish. They are deployed in Amorgos, Crete, and Rhodes Island, and we want to see how they're going to work in our ecosystems, because of course the ecosystems, the marine ecosystem in US and in Greece are very different. Targeted fishing, however, is not only with professional fishers, it's also with spear fishers. And it has been suggested that spear fishing and targeting alien species can reduce their population. So this summer, the summer that passed, we conducted awareness events with spear fishers that they only targeted alien species. And here you can see some pictures from Rhodes Island. You can see that the majority of the species that they got out was lionfish, but they also got out some spinefoots. And finally, gastronomy. Also, it has been suggested that through gastronomy, it's possible to have a decrease in the population of alien species. We have pictures of events, gastronomic events that have run since 2019 throughout Greece. And the project has implemented in different areas. As you can see on the map, we've been in the Cyclades, Dodekanis, Crete, the Ionian Islands, the Argolic Gulf, but also in Thessaloniki and Athens. And in all these years, we have conducted more than 55 gastronomic events. For the first time last year, we had the Blue Crab Festival in Thessaloniki. It's a festival that we would like to continue every year, and every year we want it to be even bigger. So we collaborated with the food truck, and they prepared finger foods with blue crabs, and people could just pass by and try these delicacies and get informed about invasive species in general, but also a bit more about blue crabs, what's the problems that they're causing, and what we can do to fight some of their impacts. Besides the gastronomic events, in all the areas that we have been, we have also conducted informative seminars. They were mainly addressed to fishers, fishmongers, chefs, restaurant owners, hotel owners, but of course they were always open to the public so that people could join us and get informed about alien species, the project and its goals in general. So this is a sum up of what we have actually achieved in those 3 years that the project has been implemented. So more than 5,000 people have already tasted finger foods of at least one alien species. We have informed more than 100 fishers and collaborated with more than 60 chefs. But I don't know, for me, it's very important that more than 350 kilos of alien species have been cooked, which means that in our seas, there are 350 kilos less of alien species. We ran a national communication campaign, and one of the parts of this campaign was the creation of an interactive map. You can find it in our website. In this map, you can actually find restaurants, fishers, and fishmongers that sell or have dishes of alien species. And if you click actually on the pin, it will have a pop-up window that will show you more information about the restaurant, like the website, their telephone, where it is. And of course, if you want to go and buy or try a dish of an alien species, you should before communicate with the restaurant or the fisher to see if they have something available at the time. It's a map that's going to be updated regularly throughout the year with new collaborators, new restaurants, new fishers, and fishmongers. We also created a seafood consumption guide. It's a consultation guide that anyone can have either with them, I mean, if you have a large enough wallet or pockets, and there are some species that are recommended, so it's better to choose those species depending on their abundance, depending on the way they were caught from the fishermen. There are some alternatives. There are some species that we should avoid. And of course, there are some species that are prohibited by law. We had an ambassador campaign as well. So here we have representatives of different target groups, and we're talking about the fishing tourism industry, scientists, recreational professional fishers, chefs, consumers, but also fishmongers. And each of those representatives shared a quote with us, with all of us, on why it's important to protect some species, or why it is important to target alien species, or what we as consumers can do in order to help mitigate the impacts. If you're going to be around the Cyclades Islands, especially Amorgos, Santorini, and Paros, very soon, hopefully in the next month, there are going to be some informative signs in some ports, and they will have the most common alien species in the area, along with some basic information on them, like whether they are dangerous or not, are they toxic or venomous, and whether they are suitable for consumption. A major aim of the project was also to create an alliance. The bigger picture is to introduce alien species into the market. And in order to create this alliance, the main partners are the ones that you can see actually in the boxes around the cycle. There will be, of course, some conditions in order for some stakeholder to participate in this alliance, like attending a training seminar, targeting and promoting alien species, and replacing and trying to avoid apex predators. But why apex predators? Okay, apex predators are very important for the aquatic ecosystems. They play a crucial role in their health and stability. They regulate the populations of lower trophic level organisms. Apex predators like swordfish, sharks, and groupers are dramatically increasing, and already the dusky grouper, the common dendex, are listed on the red list of IUCN as threatened. So this is why we're talking about responsible consumption. Try to avoid species that are already endangered, that their population is decreasing. And here we have a table, because it's also important to, when we are picking, I don't know, a dish in a restaurant or buying fish and seafood from our local fish market or fishmonger, we need to be careful on when we are buying a species. So it is very important to be careful with the consumption period, to be outside of the species reproduction period. And it's very important also to be careful with the length, like the length or the weight of the species. We need for the species to, we need to let it grow enough in order to leave offsprings. If we want to enjoy fish and seafood that we like, we need those species to allow them to leave offspring and be big enough in order to be consumed. So yeah, there are both the common names in English, but there are also on the right side, the Greek names, just in case you, I don't know, there's a restaurant that also has a Greek name and you would like to see which one it is. So what we can all do, first off, choose wisely based on the season, size, and protection status. Pick one of the collaborating restaurants if you want to enjoy a dish of alien species. Report any species that you may see and you're not familiar with, whether you're snorkeling or diving or walking on the beach. And please share your knowledge with family and friends, and in general, make responsible choices. Here are some links that you can find more information, and of course, the links of our collaborators and funders in all these projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Nickoletta. It was very, very interesting. I think we already have some questions, and I do have some as well, but we should watch a video first and then come back to it. Thank you. Okay, we do have some questions for Nickoletta. I can read them so we can answer them, and we can have a short discussion for 10 minutes, not more, please. Let's start. Okay, we have this question about which restaurants serve alien species in the Cyclades. I think that there was a map on this, and this information is provided on the website, but you can tell us maybe something more about it.
Thank you. I don't know if I remember them all, but for sure I do remember Youkali in Amorgos, Almiriki in Amorgos is also one of them, Thalasamu in Paros, and there are some more. And still, as I said before, the map is going to be updated very regularly with even more restaurants and fishers.
We do have enough in some restaurants as well, do we, or not?
I didn't, sorry, Vangelis, I didn't.
There are also
yeah.
some restaurants in Athens as well that serve.
Yeah. They're also in Athens. You can find also in Athens, because I've been there recently. Very rarely, though, you can find them in the fish market as well.
So another important question is that somebody that owns a restaurant on an island and would like to introduce invasive species in his menu, how can he do this if he's not very easily can find them by fishers? Or because we have a question from Mrs. Miras from Paros, who has a restaurant there. So how could she provide this kind of fish for her restaurant? Where can she find them?
First, they can come in contact with us, and then we can bring them in contact with local fishers that they can supply them with alien species that they are catching. Again, it always depends on the season. Like during the winter, we don't have like fishermen don't catch alien species, but during the summer, I'm sure that they can find from their local fishers.
Okay, so and one more question is that scuba divers cannot hunt invasive species, and this is a law in Greece. You can do this with free diving as a spurgan fisherman or as a spur fisherman, as you described before. It's illegal. It's not allowed because you cannot be actually patrolled if you're going to catch this kind of fish or the other kind of fish.
No, it's in general scuba diving and spear fishing. It is illegal. It's not allowed for any kind of species.
Yes, thank you. So I read that there is a question about the islands that where informative signs are going to be installed in the near future.
In the Cyclades region, it's going to be Amorgos, Paros, and Santorini. But there are also going to be in other regions in Greece.
Okay, so what is the current legal framework on invasive species? I provided a short answer, but maybe you could give more information. So Mark asks that if they receive indirect food protection because governments at first forbid all handling, fishing, and killing. Is this something that
I don't know if there is any specific legal framework for invasive species, for alien species, but sorry, on invasive. Yeah, I'm not sure about the legal framework. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll give some information on this, that we do have an EU regulation on invasive and alien species. This considers all kinds of alien species, also terrestrial ones, and there needs to be a European list of invasive species. As you understand, this cannot be for all species that are invasive in Greece, because they might be invasive only in Greece and not in, let's say, in Sweden. However, each country has the obligation to make these lists and take measures against them. Unfortunately, we are still quite taken aback in this in Greece. We do need to move forward. There are some projects being carried out, one of which is this iSea projects on Pick the Alien, which tries to tackle the issue on a different way. There are also other initiatives, not formal ones, let's say, but also that are being carried out by fishermen. For example, in Amorgos, fishers have been trying to target invasive species that are newcomers, let's say, but are edible. So they are trying to promote this in order to steer the pressure, the pressure towards commercial fish stocks to invasive ones that could be sold to local markets and restaurants. There is also a local recipe that has changed the fish using the rabbit fish for this, just to give some information. But okay, one more question is, let me see. Okay, about the poisonous sea urchin, the Diadema setosum. Is it the same as the common sea urchin in terms of fishing? What is the law on poisonous sea urchin?
There is no specific law on this, on the sea urchin, it's the same. But we have tried it though, and it is actually very tasty and it has a lot of eggs. It has like 5 times the eggs of the native species that we've got.
I think Maria Salomidi has tried as well, if I'm not mistaken, and she can give us some. Anyway, what else? Okay.
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, I confirm it is very tasty. It is also very helpful if you get stung, so it should be treated with very cautiously. And I agree that at some point we need to give way of these species to be commercialized, because even the fish sellers have problems in getting codes to sell these species. This is a matter that needs to be resolved in upper levels.
Okay, I would like just to add a few more, like not remarks, but one question is that are there any predators of alien species in the Greek waters? So, I mean, okay, we can do many things by introducing them in our everyday consumption, and as a market, as consumers push towards their inclusion in the fish markets, but are there any natural predators?
There are some recorded predations for Lykouropoulou species. It has been reported, and actually there are some photos of needlefish. They are called zargana. Needlefish or garfish, the elongated one.
Yeah.
And they have been found with, of course, small Lykouropoulou species in their stomach. Also, dusky groupers have been reported with consumption of, again, small lionfish, but there are not a lot of natural predators in our seas for alien species. Okay,
maybe if we let them become bigger, larger, then there will be more predatory apex predators that would catch them in the long run. So because we have to move forward and we need to have another short break, and we do have a couple of presentations in a few minutes, I would ask from all of you to have a 5-minute break, and we can again discuss this in the end of the webinars. Thank you very much. And in 5 minutes, in 40 past 5, we will be back with you. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. We can move on to the next presentation, which is from Mrs. Sofia Lykouropoulou from Naxos Wildlife Protection Association. This will be on the actions of Wildlife Protection Association for the protection and conservation of the loggerhead turtle, and what we can do for its protection and conservation of the Cyclades. Mrs. Lykouropoulou, you have the floor, and we can watch your presentation.
Okay, you can hear me now. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation, and thank you everyone for attending. My name is Sofia Lykouropoulou, and let me start sharing the screen. Okay. Can everyone see that?
Yes, Sophia. Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. My name is Sofia Lykouropoulou. I'm an oceanographer and member of the Association of Naxos Wildlife Protection. and we are a non-profit environmental organization based on Naxos. We were founded officially back in 2014, and since then we have been operating a first aid care station for wild animals found on Naxos Island. When it comes to wild birds, we cooperate with the Aegean Wildlife Hospital Alkyoni, which is located in Paros. And when it comes to sea turtles, we cooperate with Archelon, the sea turtle hospital located in Glyfada. We do wildlife rescue and rehabilitation with the ultimate goal to release them back into the wild. We also run environmental projects like cleanups, and we raise public awareness, for example, by doing school presentations. A big part of our work is also on the field observations of the wild fauna. And on Naxos Island specifically, we have resident populations of sea turtles and griffon vultures, which we identify and monitor. Today, though, we're going to talk about the sea turtles. So what we have done is, in cooperation with Cyclades Preservation Fund and Archelon, we created back in 2019 the network for the protection of the sea turtles in the Cyclades. So what we tried to do is create a fast response network, meaning if an injured or sick sea turtle is found in the islands of Cyclades, it will reach our rescue center, because especially all of you who live on the islands know that the connections with the mainland can be very time-consuming and difficult, especially in the winter months. So if, for example, an injured sea turtle is found on the island of Amorgos, it will reach our rescue station in Naxos in approximately 2 hours. But to reach Archelon, the hospital in Athens, it would need maybe even more than a day. Another important part of creating this network was also to include the authorities. So what we did is we informed them and informed them of the protocols and procedures of what to do if they find an injured sea turtle, as well as the locals. So people who live, who work close to the sea, like fishermen, scuba divers, etc. So what we do specifically for the sea turtles of the Cyclades is we protect them, we do rescues, we have the facilities to hospitalize them, and as I mentioned before, the goal is to reintegrate them back into the wild. We also spend a lot of time in the sea actually observing them in their natural environment. Just on Naxos, we have identified over 100 different individuals. I will talk to you a bit more about the identification methods later. We do inform the public. We do want them to know what is happening, why the sea turtles are important and how we can protect them. A big part of the conservation of sea turtles is, of course, protecting their nests. So making sure the little ones that are being born reach safely the sea. And of course, all of this wouldn't matter if we didn't try to make their environment safer. So we patrol the coasts of Naxos Island from illegal human activities, for example, illegal fishing. Let me introduce to you some of the resident sea turtles of Naxos. Here on top, this is Marios. He's probably the most popular sea turtle we have on Naxos. He got very famous last summer from a video we posted where he eats a lot of purple jellyfish. In this case here, this is a picture of him eating a sea cucumber. This is Prokopis. He's our oldest recording. He's been coming to Naxos, as far as we know, 13 years straight. And we assume he's about 40 years old. He's a male loggerhead, and he's also the biggest sea turtle we've recorded. Imagine just his carapace length. So this part is 90 centimeters without counting the length of the head and the tail. This is Don. He's another male loggerhead turtle, an adult. We've known him since 2016, and he even spent part of the summer in our rescue center due to a lung infection, and he keeps coming back to Naxos ever since. And this is Rika. She's a young loggerhead turtle. She was found in 2017. She suffered from a head injury We rescued her during one of our patrols, and she was released successfully later. And she keeps coming back to Naxos ever since. So a few things about sea turtles in general. Globally, there are 7 species. In the Mediterranean, including the Aegean Sea, there are 3 species of sea turtles. We have the loggerhead turtle, which is the most common one, the careta careta, as we know. The green one, the green turtles, the Heloniamidas, and the very rare leatherback turtle, which is also the biggest species of sea turtle found globally. It can reach over 2.5 meters in length. And if anyone ever of you see a living species, specimen of that, trust me, you're one of the luckiest people on Earth. And according to the IUCN, all of these 3 species are declared endangered or critically endangered. So sea turtles, through their evolutionary history, they started from land and moved to the sea. So they adapted to the marine environment. They spent almost all of their lives in the sea. They've existed on Earth for over 120 million years. And as reptiles, they are cold-blooded, meaning their body temperature is approximately the same as the temperature of the environment. So their behavior and metabolism depends on the temperature of the environment. They do share a few characteristics with their terrestrial cousins. They have lungs, so they need to ascend to the surface to breathe air, just like we do. And they nest on land. So the female turtle will come on land to lay her eggs. The nesting period in the Aegean Sea is about from May to August. This is when the female will come out to lay her eggs. During their post-hatchling stage, so after they're born and throughout their juvenile stage, they will spend most of their time in the open sea. But as they grow older, they will come closer to shallower coastal waters. So now I'm going to show you a video of Marios, the loggerhead turtle, how he's breathing. So this is a very calm sea, and he's floating just under the surface, and only his head pops out to take a breath. Very close to shore. If there is a boat speeding, how this could become a very great hazard for the sea turtle. As I mentioned before,
It seems
It
we have a
appears we have
problem.
lost Sophia. There's an energy issue on some of the islands, it seems. We know there's a problem in some areas of Naxos, possibly. Now it's also at the area in Naxos where Sophia is located. Annie, are you still out of power?
No, it came back, just came back, but it's living on the island. It's always a miracle.
A couple of minutes to Sophia to. I'll play her video. Maybe should I? What do you think, Vangelis? Should we play the video that we were planning to play after Sophia was finished, or give it a couple of minutes?
No, wait. I think that Sophia is online now. Maybe we can unmute her and continue with the presentation.
okay.
Sophia, we can see you now. Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Did you miss a big part? I don't know where we stopped.
While you were talking about the issue with boats, we lost you.
Oh, okay.
If you could share your screen again, please.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, we talked about breathing, and just a few things about the nests. One moment. Yeah, so these are a few pictures of sea turtles that were born on the island of Naxos. So in this case, this is a nest that was found in the area of Aegean, if I'm not mistaken. So what we try is we locate the nest and barricade it. So we protect it from human activities that could destroy it, like sun umbrellas. And then when they hatch, we make sure we are there, so we ensure they reach the ocean safely. So Greece actually is the greatest nesting area in the Mediterranean Sea for the loggerhead turtles. And according to Archelon's data, just in 2021, about 7,200 nests were recorded. And these nests are actually only on the hot spots, so mostly around the Ionian Sea. There's not much detailed recording of nests on the Cyclades. So according to our data, it's sporadic nesting, meaning we have much fewer nests. Just on Naxos, we have at least one nest a year, as far as we know of. When it comes to green turtles, they nest mostly in the southeastern Mediterranean coast, like Cyprus, but we have recorded baby green turtles and juveniles swimming around the coast of Naxos during the summer. And an extra fact, the nest size, so how big a nest is and how many eggs are laid, which are usually from 80 and over to 100 eggs, are equivalent to the size of the female. So what do sea turtles feed on? Loggerhead turtles are omnivorous, so they eat pretty much everything. Their diet mostly consists of sponges, crustaceans, mollusks, sea urchins, sea cucumbers, and jellyfish. And green turtles, on the other hand, are strictly herbivorous when they are adults, so they eat only seaweed. There is the wrong idea that sea turtles eat fish. Actually, physically, they are unable to hunt down a fish and catch it. It's like you trying to catch a fish with bare hands. But if they find dead fish, they might eat it, like fish that's being dumped from fishing boats. A few examples of the sea turtles I've introduced you before eating. This is the big Procopis. He's nibbling on these brown sponges, which is a common species found in the shallow rocky reefs of the Cyclades. This is Marios. He's trying to eat a shell. I don't know if you can see it between his beaks. So loggerhead turtles actually have a very strong bite. Their beaks are made to crush shells. And this is Don. He attempts to eat this big marine snail. And actually, after some time, he managed to crush it and eat the slug that was inside. I mentioned to you before, a part of our work is to do identification on the field. So there's different methods. One of them is by taking a simple picture of the top of their heads. So these are actually 3 different individuals. And if you take a closer look, each pattern on the top of their heads is different. And it's unique to each individual. Just like our fingerprint is unique, the same applies to the sea turtles. Additionally, there are other characteristics that could help identify a sea turtle, like Scar, this guy here. He's got an old wound from boat collision. And then also what we do is we tag them. So all sea turtles that come through our rescue center will receive a tag with a unique code. Like Poseidon here, he got the code on the front flippers. And this helps a lot to identify sea turtles if, for example, they're washed ashore. This is an example of a sea turtle that was found dead on the coast of Naxos that was tagged in a rescue center in Turkey. There are a lot of threats against sea turtles, but the number 1 threat is fishing gear. A recent paper from Carpentieri says that more than 149,000 loggerhead turtles become bycatch victims each year just in the Mediterranean Sea, of which the 39,000 are found dead. But of course, there are other threats like tourist development, especially on the Cycladic islands, which lead to the shrinking and destruction of the nests that are available on the beaches that are available for nesting. We all know how boat trafficking is, especially in the summer months around the Cyclades, which again are a big threat to the sea turtles. And of course, let's not forget the big problem of pollution. This is an example of a loggerhead we found on Naxos. She was found dead, trapped on a fishing net, specifically an abandoned net. We call them ghost nets. And also it was an illegal type. It had very small openings. Something else we see every year is victims of fishing gear ingestion. This guy, this is Poseidon, a young loggerhead. He actually ingested this big fishing hook. It's a 10 centimeter long. I think it's meant for tuna fish or swordfish. This is his X-ray. And this is another example of a sea turtle that swallowed all these fishing hooks. Boat collision. Unfortunately, every year we find either dead or injured sea turtles from boat collision. In this case, this big loggerhead, she was found on one of the most popular beaches of Naxos and Aegean by French tourists who saw the whole incident, and they called us. Unfortunately, this loggerhead died from bleeding within a few hours. Here I would like to mention that the shell, the carapace, as we call it, of the sea turtles are a part of their body. So it's a part of their rib cage and spinal cord. So they feel anything that is happening, that's taking place on their carapace. Even this little shell that's slowly digging inside, they feel that. So you can imagine this is very painful for the sea turtle. Here on the right, this is Evdokia, a young loggerhead turtle we recently rescued. You see a part of her carapace is missing. She again was hit by a boat, and she was one of the lucky ones. She survived. Although she lost one of her hind flippers, she was successfully released. If she hadn't been found, most probably she would die of infection. The greatest enemy for all wild animals is, of course, humans. And I know these are not beautiful pictures, but this is the reality. Every year we find intentionally killed sea turtles, stabbed ones, hit on their heads, shot on their heads. One of the most gruesome finds we had was this turtle that was intentionally killed by tying a piece of cement on her back flipper. As I mentioned before, sea turtles need to surface to breathe, so you can imagine she had a very slow and torturous death. But there is hope. There are a few survivors, like Nireas here. He had actually a very similar hit to this one. He survived. He was found on Paros. He spent 5 months under intensive care at our station and was successfully released. And of course, the threats against that destroy the nesting beaches. It was also mentioned on the presentations before, vehicles on the beaches can destroy the nests that could lie below. Coastal development, from building to sunbeds and sun umbrellas. Of course, pollution, any kind of plastic that could become an obstruction for the baby sea turtles, as well as the adult female that comes out to lay her eggs. Of course, light pollution that disorientate the turtles. There are many things that threaten sea turtles, but we can learn how to help the sea turtles. First and foremost, we can educate ourselves just by learning a few things about sea turtles, what their natural behavior is, what is threatening them, what is happening in our oceans. For example, we can become a conscious and responsible seafood consumer, like Nickoletta mentioned before, because now we know that fishing activities are the greatest threat against sea turtles. If you see anything illegal happening, you call the port police. For example, an illegal fishing activity because it could harm the sea turtle. Or if you find an injured, sick sea turtle, you will call our organization, Naxos Wildlife Protection, on this phone number, or the port police as soon as possible, just like you would call the ambulance if you found an injured human next to you. There are a few basic rules we can follow if we see a sea turtle. So if you have the luck to swim with the sea turtle in the ocean, first we respect her space. So we don't go close, we keep a safe distance without obstructing their way. For example, if you're snorkeling and a sea turtle is swimming below you, heading this way, you would not go in front of her because that would make her feel threatened and stressed. We never touch a sea turtle. Just like all wild animals, they will feel threatened and stressed if touched or approached. And we never ever feed a sea turtle. These practices will have devastating effects on the sea turtle's health and behavior, and sea turtles are perfectly capable of finding their own food. So now that you know a few things about what a natural behavior of a sea turtle is, you can see signs that will tell you a sea turtle has some sort of issue. For example, a sea turtle that cannot descend. So if they're trying to dive, but they cannot, it means she probably suffers from some sort of infection. So she would need help as soon as possible. Any sea turtle that is entangled in fishing gear or has a fishing line or rope coming out of her mouth or from her back, from her cloaca, any sort of injury, or if she is found on land. Again, the only reason a healthy sea turtle would come on land is an adult female, usually during the nighttime, during the nesting period, which we mentioned in the Aegean Sea is between May till August. Any other case, if a sea turtle is found on land, she needs help as soon as possible. So you would call our organization or the local port police for further instructions. I would like to add here that sometimes we want to do all the good in the world, but some actions or movements could prove fatal to the sea turtle. So please don't do anything unless you take instructions first. A few examples of sea turtles that required help. On the top left, this is Zoe. She was found by an amateur fisherman actually in the area of Naxos. She was trying to descend but couldn't. We call this a bubble butt. She was suffering from lung infection and she was treated and released successfully a few months later. This is Rika. She was found during one of our patrols, and you will notice, although she's diving, she's swimming in a very strange way. She's actually vertical, which is a sign of neurological issues. She was hit on the head. She had an injury on the head, and we rescued her and released her successfully about 8 months later. Poseidon, he had ingested a fishing hook, so you see the fishing line coming out of the mouth, and in this case, from her cloaca. Anytime you see a sea turtle entangled in fishing gear, she must be removed from the water and transferred to our rescue station as soon as possible. Please do not attempt to cut or remove any objects found inside the sea turtle. For example, in this case, we have Yanis, one of the first rescue we made back in 2014. What you will find is a sea turtle like this, with a fishing line coming out like that. What is happening inside is this. This is his X-ray. So there was a fishing line with 26 fishing hooks reaching all the way to his stomach. So imagine if you find a sea turtle like that and you think, okay, I will help him by pulling this. You would literally kill the animal. If in case you find a female turtle that is nesting, or the hatchlings coming out of the sand, or just their traces on the sand, it's very important to find the nest and locate it and protect it. So first of all, you step away from the spot and you try to keep other passerbys away as well. You call Naxos Wildlife Protection and the port police as soon as possible so we can locate the nest and protect it. We do not speak loudly. We do not want to spook the animals. Please do not use flashlights because, again, it would disorientate the animals and stress them. And of course, we do not obstruct their way back to the sea. And just by following these basic rules, we can learn how to live in harmony with the sea turtles. Here are just a few examples of traces of sea turtles on the sand. So in this case, on the left, this is a classic sign of a female that came out, bagged herself, ate her nest, and then went back into the sea. It kind of looks like you're dragging something heavy, like a heavy bag on the sand. And here you can see better. These are the traces of the baby sea turtles that crawl back to the sea. And like Sir David Attenborough says, in our hands now lies not only our own future, but that of all other living creatures with whom we share this earth. Here I've added a few links. We also have a video, it will be shown in a moment. And of course, our phone numbers and our email. If you would like to know anything else or you would like to contact us personally, feel free. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sophia. maybe we can see the video right now and then move to the questions and thank you. I think it was really interesting. We do have some questions on the sea turtles presentation. Maybe I can start about, we have one question about nesting and the percentage of success in hatching. So maybe you can give us more information. What was the last nest you registered in Naxos on the amount of baby turtles that go on the sea? Could you know how many?
This is all in the chat. I'm sorry.
Yes, yes. If you go to the
Okay.
chat, you will see that there are some questions on the loggerhead sea turtle.
Let me see them 1 moment.
Yes, yes, of course. We do have like 5-10 minutes, and then
Okay, there's
we
quite a few.
can.
Okay.
If you could just please
As far
repeat
as-
the questions for the recording,
Yeah.
so that we know
So,
what
I see a question. As far as I know, if I'm right about this, do crabs also destroy, eat the eggs in the sand? If this is true, is our help enough to protect the nests anyway from humans? So about the Cyclades, we don't really have the normal natural predation like in other areas, like in the mainland. Crabs, yes, they could eat maybe if the baby hatchlings when they emerge, but it's a very small number. If there was one natural predator that's the greatest threat, that would be the seagulls. Again, seagulls, though, they would hunt during the daytime, and the hatchlings, this is naturally something that the sea turtles have evolved. This is why the female comes out during the night, and usually the little ones will hatch during the nighttime as well. What do you okay. Do you think the tourists receive enough information about marine wildlife and environment they will see during their holiday?
Maybe we could have some questions discussed afterwards that are not particular for this presentation. So maybe you could focus only on the.
Yeah, it's quite a few. That's why. What beaches and areas in the Cyclades should we watch for nesting? So from our data, we have had nests all around Naxos and in other areas, in other islands of the Cyclades. Usually they will prefer sandy beaches, but we have had nests even in more rocky beaches. So it's really sporadic. It could be anywhere. The trick is in sandy beaches specifically, you can see the traces, and usually you can see that very early in the morning before all the people just crowd the beaches. So you would see these traces I've mentioned on my presentation. Yeah, and report it. You call us. For the Cyclades, we are responsible under the collaboration with Aegean. So we are responsible for the Cycladic islands. You call our organization or even the port police, and we will try to locate the nest and protect it. So about the numbers of turtles that are caught each year in nets in the Mediterranean, do we have an idea of the total number of turtles we count in the Mediterranean Sea actually? Oh my God, no. It's very important. It's very difficult to have an estimation of the population, and the numbers usually derive from the recordings of the females that come out to hatch, the dead ones that are found each year, but it's not the real number, so we cannot really tell. How many chances has a baby sea turtle to grow until its sexual maturity in the Aegean Sea? Again, that's not really a number we have. It's very rare, so it's a very few numbers that actually reach maturity. And maturity in sea turtles, we're talking about the loggerheads. We're talking about 18 years. So in this case, you really have to think, if you see an adult sea turtle in the sea, it's a miracle of nature. She has survived so many dangers and threats. I would like to mention another case when the newborn hatched and it was night, they lost their way to the sea because of the light of restaurants, hotels. What can we do for this? Honestly, for the Cyclades, they haven't really created a rule or a law that hotels or the street lights are being turned off. Again, because we don't really have the numbers of nests recorded like in Corfu or around the coast of the Ionian Sea. As we find more nests and we have more data, we can actually prove that sea turtles often come and lay their eggs. Maybe then something could happen. But if, for example, you have a restaurant close to the beach, and during the nighttime when you close your shop, you could just turn off the lights. I mean, they're not really necessary, but it depends also on the area. So maybe contact us if you are close to an area that we know that we had nests before, if you could personally help in this case. How can we tell the difference between legal and illegal fishing? What should we look out for?
We can discuss this on the next session, Sophia. It's a
yeah,
wider
because it's
question.
legislative. Okay. When was the last nest you registered in Naxos on the amount of baby turtles that go to the sea? Could you know how many will live or come back to the island of Earth? No, you cannot know. Yeah, as I mentioned, on Naxos, we usually find one every summer. The last one was in 2021 in Mikrivigla. This is all the questions I see so far. I'm sorry if I missed anyone. We can talk about it later if you want.
Just a small remark before we go to a short break. I don't know if this has happened to you. I mean, if you have evidence, I mean, if you've been present in one in a loggerhead turtle coming out in a beach to spawn, it's really impressive. The loggerhead turtles are really big, and they're really frustrated if they find the beaches, you know, with people or with other things that obstruct their way towards the area that they want to make the nest. I think that we can all take, you know, some actions, and as Sophia said, that we need always to contact experts and organizations that work with the loggerhead turtles. We never do something just because we want to do something, and we never try to take pictures touching or, you know, moving animals, because we see this a lot. It's not like an Insta story thing. We need to be very careful with wildlife, and this could be dangerous not only for the wildlife but also for us as well. We need to have this in mind as well. Thank you. We can have a short break maybe, and then move to Annie wants to say something.
Yes, just I saw a last question from Save EOS Association, and it has to do with the Cycladic network for the sea turtle conservation, because the question is, how could Naxos help us set up other wildlife protection centers in other islands like EOS, for example? I don't think we really need more wildlife protection centers, because we do have the ones who is super experienced, but what we need is this kind of network. That's why we have also helped as CPF together with Naxos Wildlife and Aegean to send these rescue kits where the port authorities and right ambassadors and trained ambassadors like Save EOS Association could be one of them, who could be trained directly by Naxos Wildlife what to do or what not to do whenever you find an injured animal, to use these rescue kits and send it back to Naxos or even Glyfada in Athens, because it demands a lot of knowledge. So it's not a matter of creating more rescue centers, but find the right tools and means to save these animals and send them to the right experts. So thank you for this question.
Maybe we could move directly to the next summary from Dorothy Filiotti from the Cyclades Preservation Fund, which is like a summary, a recap of what we have said and what anyone can do on all the issues we have discussed and saw today from the presentations from all experts. Dorothy, you have the floor. So thank you.
Thank you. Let me see how my share screen is going to work. A moment. Sorry. Okay. Is this working? Can you see my screen and hear me okay?
Yes, it's full screen.
Okay.
Hear you very well.
I do want to say a huge thank you to the presenters and my organizing team. This is really exciting, and I'm really glad this is happening, so that we can work towards a kind of critical mass of having a better relationship to the sea. So here is a very quick recap, and I'm also going to talk about some of the citizen science projects that I know of. And I'm focusing on actions, basically the small takeaways that we can have from these presentations about Posidonia, Pick the Alien, protecting wildlife, and as I'll share about citizen science and sharing what you see with your own eyes, which can serve many projects. The kind of really quick takeaways from the Posidonia was so rich, and it's such an amazing ecosystem, is anchoring far away, leaving it on the beach, and no vehicles, it should say here. And as with all of this information we've heard, spreading the word is a huge part of this. For Picking the Alien, it's about finding a restaurant using the campaign page, calling ahead because we don't have these species on tap just yet, but with everybody's help, we can create the demand to make it more more common, enjoy and share. For protecting wildlife, as we just heard, for all wildlife, the basic etiquette is for respecting their space and peace and quiet. And for turtles specifically, if injured or nesting, important to call Naxos wildlife protection and follow instructions. And when we see nest sites or tracks, protect the space. And again, call the specialists. So citizen science is data or observations from non-specialists that can contribute to scientific projects. And it's really important because we're all out there, so much information, and it's so easy to share nowadays that we can really give our observations for good and powerful causes to help education, public awareness. We can even apply pressure around policy or wider discussions and create a close relationship between science and society. I want to shout out to Biodiversity Greece. I learned a lot from their website, and they have a lot of projects on iNaturalist. So here are some of the main projects that one can contribute to. I actually have all of these sites open, so I want to share them with you. This is for Posidonia, so there are, to an extent, citizen science projects for each of the presentations we just heard. There are questionnaires for a number of islands, and they look like this. So if you find Posidonia, if you see it in a bay, you can give a lot of information. And especially important is, hang on a second, because I can't access my browser with while I'm sharing my screen. Yeah, so you can share a lot of information of what's going on in these bays, which is very useful for research and projects supporting Posidonia. For the invasive species, as Nickoletta.
Dorothy, sorry, but I think that you have not shared the browser, so we cannot see the browser. We just see a blank screen now.
Oh, sorry. I will reshare, I think. 1 second. I don't know how to do that. Reshare. Okay, let's try this. Can you see the invasive species?
Yes.
Okay, so this is iSea's citizen science project on iNaturalist, which is a platform where anyone can sign up, and I freely encourage everyone to do so. You can find a lot of projects for sharing many different kinds of species in Greece and beyond. And this is the Is It Alien to You project. So you can find observations here that other people have contributed. For turtles, Aegean has a page guiding about what to do if you find a sea turtle. And you can also email Naxos Wildlife directly with a picture if you just see a sea turtle and you very respectfully, as we learned, give it its space and so on. But you can send them a picture because it's useful for them to keep track of sea turtle sightings. MOM collects data about seals and dolphins. So you can contribute. If you see a seal or a dolphin, you can fill in a observation report or even use their app. And I think that was those were the main ones I wanted to add about. This was the Posidonia one, if you didn't manage to see that. And all these links, I will make a list of them for you, and they will come to you in a follow-up email. We'll make them available on the Cyclades Preservation Fund website. So I think that's most of what I wanted to say, and I think time-wise, How are we doing? Pretty well.
Yes, we're fine. Don't worry.
Okay, good. If you can you see my presentation now?
Yes, but you have to make it full screen, so it's just
Okay, great. Present. This is an example of the Cyclades Care for Dolphins citizen science project, where this form, which we would find on MOM's website, they collected, shall I say, 176 identifications of different types of cetaceans, which are these types of marine mammals, including dolphins. And it proved to be a very interesting and valuable collection of results for them. And thank you very much. That's my very brief citizen science introduction and wrap up. And I will stop sharing now.
Thank you, Dorothy. I think that we all have some hints on how to move forward with these issues, and there are things that we can do, everyone on each behalf, small things, especially for Posidonia and alien species, but also for the threatened and flagship species that are really endangered in the Cyclades. I would like to give the floor to Nasia Casella, who would like to make some comments on this, and then we can move to the questions that have been asked in the chat. But also, if you want, you can participate by raising your hand, and we can have a short discussion on what we have seen today. Nasia?
Thank you, Vangelis. Thank you, everyone, to our presenters. I think you all have done an amazing job. And I would like to also welcome everyone who is joining today from the islands. We see a few faces and a few names, but we're sure there are more hidden there. So we see people from Andros, Uli, and I believe Yola was there before. From Syros, Vicky and Ruth, at least. From Paros, I saw Elena somewhere. From EOS, I believe, Philip, this is you. Nice to see your face. We've had exchanges, but never actually met. And I also saw Mr. Taklis from the Biodiversity Observatory. It's a national initiative. I see Zeta Kabardi from a collaborating organization. So Mariella from the Argolic Fund. So, and we would like to also thank everyone else that we see from companies, visitors, tourists that are here today. And as Vangelis mentioned, we will proceed with checking the questions that we see, but we would like to also invite everyone, whether we know each other or not, to please pose your questions on the chat or raise your hand to speak up. Hello, Berta from London. And particularly the people that are representing local initiatives of the islands. We would like to hear a few words from you after we go through the questions, so that you can present just in a 1-2 minute your own initiatives, so that people that are with us today, they know who to contact on respective islands, besides Sophia from Naxos that was here today to talk about turtles. But there's a lot going on in the islands, and we'd like to take the opportunity of this webinar to extend also beyond just the marine environment, so that you're all heard. So thank you.
They're all heard. And if I may, sorry, there's a chance to meet these people and also support these people. So becoming a volunteer, becoming a supporter, this could be done by only providing a small or bigger donation, because there is a lot of needs, you know, and these can be also financial needs. If I may say it on behalf of the small heroes, the local heroes who really struggle to do their best to protect the land and the sea they love. So this is an opportunity for you guys to meet them all and support them either through the CPF or directly. Thank you. And sorry for the intervention. I just wanted to say that.
And hello, Barbara, now with the camera. Welcome. Barbara is in our steering committee. Really honored that we have you with us here today.
Okay, maybe we'll go on with the questions that we didn't address a little bit before. So there was a question about the Posidonia meadows, about if there is an application that provides information on Posidonia beds to avoid them during anchoring. We don't have something like that in Greece right now. There is a French company that has developed such an application, and it's something that many initiatives are looking into that in Greece, but unfortunately there isn't anything that could help boaters, yachters to use it and avoid Posidonia beds. Nevertheless, Posidonia Alert is sensitizing stakeholders, and in general, experienced yachters and boaters try to avoid Posidonia meadows to anchor their vessels. It's not very practical for them as well. They try to use areas where it's clear for them to anchor. Maybe, I don't know if Maria would like to intervene in this as well, but to my knowledge, this is what the situation is right now.
Yes, hello. So I was just trying to also reply in the chat. Yeah, of course, we are also in collaboration with Andromed Posidonia. We'll post this it is a very nice idea to have a navigation app, sorry, that may help you to avoid the existing Posidonia meadows. But this, of course, needs to have a very good, very high resolution mapping across coastal areas. So this is the only thing that is keeping us from applying it in Greece. But we are in close collaboration with Andromed Posidonia in the process of integrating available Posidonia maps in a translated version of this app. Of course, this is something that can only run voluntarily and only run with concert citizens. So unless there is a real legislative framework that actually bans anchoring on Posidonia meadows, it can only help that much.
Okay. Other questions that we have not yet answered. There were some questions about the legal part on what is allowed to, what kind of equipment or vehicles are allowed to go on beaches. So the law is actually describing sandy beaches that have dunes, which also collect the Posidonia bunkets. And this is something that is forbidden. I have already posted the link on the law, so this can be reached. It's the amended law as well, so it's the most current aspect of the law. However, it's in Greek, but if you try to translate it through Google Translate, you will have your answer on this, and also in which article this is referred to. It's not exclusively for the Posidonia bunkets, but in general for the dunes of the beaches and all the animals and plants that are found in one beach. Actually, a beach is not only its sand. The beach is a whole community, both biotic and not biotic. And it should be mentioned that the Posidonia bunket is part of the beach. So if we remove it, then we will destroy the beach, and we will not have a beach in some years, or maybe in the same year as well. So this is why we should treat it like that. Let me go a little bit further down to the questions. Okay, we have a question about invasive species. So one question is how, in a more specific way, alien species cause problem to the other fish species exactly. Maybe an example would help. Nickoletta, maybe you could provide some info on this.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. like the spine food species, like Cyclades rivulatus and Cyclades chloridus, they tend to, they feed on algae, and we usually say that they are acting like mowing machines, let's say, the ones that you cut the grass. So wherever they go, they make the environment barren. So it's very hard for other organisms to live then in that environment. Or for lionfish, they tend to be competitive. Lionfish eat very large amounts of juvenile fish. They consume a lot of it. They are very sturdy fish. I mean, they can still survive in sea temperatures of 13 degrees. So this gives them advantage over other native species. And this is how then the balance is getting off, if it was clear.
Yeah, thanks, Nickoletta. Maybe I would add to this that what Nickoletta has said is exactly the point, but we need also to consider that our marine ecosystems are not pristine. They are already under huge pressure. They're overfished. Many species are being, fished constantly and removed from the ecosystem. So this gives a lot of space to invasive species to come and establish their populations without any competition. They're better adapted to hotter environments. Climate change is increasing temperature in the Mediterranean Sea. So competition between species that currently live in our waters with those that come from the Red Sea is very difficult. And as long as we put more pressure to commercial species like the species that are already living in the Aegean Sea, then invasive species will establish their populations in a more rapid way. Let me go further down. Okay, we have one more question about alien species. Do in some regions the alien species could take the place of other endemic species in the food chain? If yes, is then desirable that all alien fishes be caught? Do the ecosystem will be restored by itself? Nickoletta, maybe you can.
Sorry, can I also see the question because it was
Yes, it's
fast, or repeat the question?
Do in some regions the alien species could take the place of other endemic species in the food chain? If yes, is it then desirable that all alien fish be caught? Do the ecosystem will be restored by itself?
Okay, so basically with the alien, we are mostly focused with invasive species. Invasive species are the ones that have established their populations and they are causing damage to the ecosystem or the economy, or as we said before, in other in human health or other parts. I think it would take a lot of years for let's say for a predator to start feeding exclusively on an alien species. It's like for people as well, changing something in your diet sometimes can take a lot of time. So I don't think that alien species can replace native species.
Okay, yes. It's what you said exactly. And one thing that we need to consider is that ecosystems are not stable in general. There is always a change. Apart from climate change, there is ecosystem change. Conditions are always in a shifting balance. So this is something that we cannot actually reverse, and we cannot stop invasive species from coming. We need to manage and work towards minimizing and tackling the pressure that endemic or local species have, so as to protect and ensure that our ecosystems are more resilient and healthy. This is the issue. What Nickoletta said before for the rabbitfish that are mowners, that they're grazing the algae from the rocks, is something that has become very much evident over the last 10, 15 years that the marine habitats have completely changed. Somebody that had dived in the Greek seas like in the early 2000s and has visited Greece again like 2020, he would see a huge difference in the marine habitats that have this kind in reefs, for example. Let me go to another question, which is about if there is a Greek law that punishes the landing of fish spurred on scuba, or if you could kill them and leave them in the water. I can answer this if you want. So when somebody is scuba diving, it is prohibited by law to fish. If you are caught fishing during scuba diving, you're not only all your equipment is being comprehended by the port police authorities, you also have a fine, and you could also face another offense, which is about it's much more heavy and could end up in courts. So this is something that is quite illegal to carry out. So you cannot kill something when you are scuba diving. Only spear gun fishermen can use spear guns to fish, always under specific regulations. So there are laws that govern how fish are fished from recreational fishers, and this should be respected. I don't know if somebody else wants to add something on this. Feel free. We have a question about monk seals from Spiridon. I don't think this presentation had a webinar about monk seals. However, if Mr. Spiridon is here, maybe he could rephrase this question in a more specific way, because monk seals are a flagship species for Greece. It's very important. It's throughout the Cyclades. So
I think he's not present at the moment. He said that he would leave and come back, but maybe it has to do with rescue of monk seals, what we do when we find an injured species animal. I guess we could give a quick feedback on that again.
Yes, in this case, we need to contact immediately MOM and the port police authorities. We never go so close to the animal, we never touch it, and we never try to push it back to the sea. We don't pour water on it, and we never bring a dog or another animal close to it. We need to keep our distance, observe it, take pictures, and be able to provide all this information to an expert that will be able to judge this circumstance and this condition. In some cases, monk seals could strand on a beach, could come out on a beach and would not need help or would not be in danger of having something. We need to give this information to an expert so that he will judge if the animal needs help or not. Maybe I will go one further down. How can we tell the difference between legal and illegal fishing? What should we look out for? I think that Nickoletta gave some information on this on her presentation, that there are minimum landing sizes on fish caught. There are some fish, mostly elasmobranchs and rays that are sharks and rays that are protected by law, so they should not be landed or sold in the markets. So there are also several applications and information available online for many from iSea as well on how to consume fish, on what is legal and what is not. And I think that we should highlight this in this webinar, in the end of it, providing the necessary links for this, because consumers, we can make a huge difference on minimizing illegal fishing. If we don't ask, or if we, actually refrain and identify restaurants and shop owners, fishmongers that sell this kind of illegal fish, then we would make this change also for the fishers, that they will not be able to land fish that are undersized or illegally caught.
Vangelis, may I suggest, as we just have 10 minutes, maybe now it's the time for people to raise their hands and perhaps even repeat questions that have not been replied so far, just to give more
I agree
spirit in
with
the
you.
open discussion, in the live discussion.
Yes.
Thank you.
If we have any hands or any questions, we will be happy to hear them.
Dear friends, don't be shy. Yes, please, just raise your hands for me to unmute you. Okay, good. Pierre.
Pierre, okay, yeah. Hello, Pierre. Try to unmute yourself because you're still muted. Okay, I think we hear you now.
It's okay this time.
Yes. How are you?
Yes, as Vangelis. Happy to see you. Happy to see everybody.
Me too.
Thank you for this great webinar. I had a question about the tourism in the islands and the massive number of visitors arriving each year in the islands. As a regular tourist in your country, I'm happy to be a visitor in your country. I am amazed year after year to see the increasing number of people visiting the island, and I'm quite worried about the fact that we don't see a lot of information addressed to this public about the environmental wildlife in the island, on the necessary basic attitude and the behaviors to respect about this. And I would like to know if there is any plans or idea that local NGOs or actors such as you are would maybe create a kind of tools or to generate information to this tourist about their own responsibility when they are visiting the island.
You mean in a more mainstream way, I suppose, like in ferries and buses and ports?
Ferries, airport, port, or maybe on the smartphone. I don't know. I was last year. I was surprised in Amorgo. I've seen some tourists swimming around a turtle, and they were very exciting, of course, and they were touching the turtles. And but it was not in a bad way. It was just because they didn't know, and there were no information on the beach, on the port, that turtles are existing in Amorgo. So they didn't know how to behave correctly.
Yes, you're right. We need more this kind of information, ending up in tourists that are not aware of what's going on in terms of biodiversity in the islands. And I think that all organizations that are working locally are trying to increase their reach towards this. It's not very easy always, because you have a lot of mainstream tourists that are, just are not aware, are not interested. But we need to address them and bring them to this kind of to provide them this kind of message. But I'm
if I
sure
may,
yes,
if I
of course,
may, Vangelis, yes, that Pierre, what we're doing here today is kind of a step towards this. So we started this series of 4 webinars, realizing that there is a lot of knowledge out there, but it's not reaching the audiences that it should reach. And even today, we're so many people here, but about 30% is people that we know each other, and we still are in the process of exchanging knowledge and information among us, people that actually work for the environment of the Cyclades. So in this series, in the third and fourth webinar, we're going to focus exactly on what someone can do to be a more responsible visitor to the Cyclades, or a more responsible seasonal resident, let's say, because there is a lot of cases when people stay for 1 or 2 months, and then they can be of real added value to the local associations. And also this scattering of knowledge exists across all fields, let's say. So what we're going to try to do during this initiative is also to bring information together on our website or another separate website, where someone who's visiting the Cyclades can be referred to what Dorothy showed before. So this will actually be online somewhere, so that someone who is looking to see what they can do for the seal, with the opportunity that they care about the Cyclades, so they know the Cyclades Preservation Fund. They could also access from other sites, but we're trying to kind of bring together this information, but not produce something new, rather create networks and networks of knowledge. And as Annie mentioned later, for Savius to collaborate with the Naxos Wildlife Association, for example, we try also to enable this strengthening, let's say. And there are small initiatives that make it to the boats, let's say, or make it to hotels or to villas. The system is huge, so it's quite difficult to make something that is really coordinated across everyone. But from time to time, for example, there are initiatives in airports, for example, about what to do with your drinking water. There was such an initiative in Paris in the past, or on the boats, in the big ones. Some of the ferries have some informational material. It's not easy, it's challenging, and you're right. There is a lot of work that still needs to be done on that front. And thank you for raising this, because it's one of our most serious concerns, in fact.
I think that Pierre may be very helpful on this, because he has already contributed very much to the protection and conservation of biodiversity of Greece, especially monk seals in Anafi and in Amorgos. So he has helped a lot, and his experience on how this information should be provided to visitors of Greece, and how this would be more easy to reach them, would be very important to have it. So, of course, I think that we are more than open to have this kind of contribution by people that are enjoying the Greek summer, or enjoying the Cyclades, but they're also interested about nature. Thanks for this question, Pierre. It was really, really good, really nice.
Thank you.
Yes, please. And Pierre, we definitely need your support. we want to work all together.
And also,
and
it's a key point about fundraising on money. It has been said previously. I think some tourists would be happy to give few euros to support actions if they knew them, if they knew how to do it. And in the ferry boat, mainly, there are things to think about how to increase the message on the TV screen, on the ferry boat, maybe such idea that could be thought together. Anyway, thank you very much again.
We have one more question from Marozina.
Hi, I'm Maro. I'm in Barcelona currently. I spend 2 to 4 months a year in Iraklia, in the small Cyclades. But I want to say something regarding the cleaning of beaches with motorized vehicles and Posidonia. I don't know if, I'm sure a lot of you know that in Naxos and the small Cyclades, this is very common. It's organized by the municipality. They send equipment for this. The islands and the communities are fighting over who is going to get the equipment in the beginning of the season first. And I'm very, very sure that the small communities are completely unaware that this is illegal. And I'm not talking about beaches with dunes.
Vincent, je te réponds en audio, c'est plus facile. Non, mais à ce moment-là, tu...
Okay. Can you hear me?
We do.
Yes. Someone said earlier that we should be reporting this to the police. Iraklia, for example, doesn't have police, and the port police is there 3 months a year. This type of cleanup happens in the beginning of the season, so there is no port police at the time. And because the municipalities are not, I don't know if they're aware, but they've not informed their communities that this is illegal, I'm very sure that reporting this to the police is going to bring zero outcome. I think the only outcome in a situation like a small island like Iraklia, Sinoussa, or Kofonisi would be to burn bridges with the community and to, create, instead of having the outcome of this topic, they just are gonna, put you aside and not let you be involved anymore. And I don't know if if reporting it is the right approach to the police. I think maybe more information to the communities about why this is not the right thing to do is a better approach. I don't know. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much for the webinar. Nice to meet everyone.
Yes, I would like to answer. Sorry.
I would like to answer to Maro about her case, since it's Irakia and they are, let's say, part of Naxos, the smaller Cyclades. If you see no reaction from the police or the port police in Irakia, call port police or the police on Naxos Island. In general, whatever we do and we call for their help, they are quite helpful in environmental cases. So maybe try your luck there.
Yeah, I would also like to add that this is a very frustrating situation, and this really applies for almost all environmental break of legislation in Greece. It is a very terrible problem, and this is why we invest on informing people, because we believe that if you make this critical mass, maybe something can change. But I very much agree with Maro, and we know that this has been going on. And we also have approached the municipalities themselves, and we've given them all the information, but still they claim that they need to do it because it's the citizens that ask them to do it. So it's a mess, and we try step by step to untangle it. Thank you very much.
There's also a comment from Panayotis about towards me about posting do's and don'ts on some boards on little ports. So there is an ongoing effort to install some informative boards with permits from local port authorities. It gets quite complicated when someone tries to do things with proper materials, proper licenses and everything, and permits. There's a lot of material out there. So if you would like to reach out, let us know of your issues of interest, and we'd be happy to share material and bring you in touch with local entities, non-profit associations in the islands where you operate and work, as I understand, so that you can advance this further as well by yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more? Annie, you would like to?
Yeah, I was just thinking loudly, and I wanted to share with you that I guess you all know, I mean, more or less, you all have a close connection to one or more than one island. One of the issues here has to do with the fact that, the islands are not what we have in mind in the summer only, right? I mean, like the local communities, people know each other, and there are very personal relations, and, it's super difficult indeed. Maybe someone could not imagine, but it's super difficult to work with authorities in the way that one would believe that would be the right thing to do. So that's why what we're trying to do at the CPF level is actually empower more or less the citizens, the civil society, and identify within the local communities, because even the local communities is a mosaic, it has a variety of different approaches, and people are close to each other in different many ways. Nobody would go, for example, to make a complaint about a neighbor, because everyone is relative in a way, or so it's difficult to do the right thing. That's why you need some neutral, and in some way the CPF works this way as a neutral, objective player coming from the outside, creating these bridges between the local authorities and the civil society actors, if possible. Also, sometimes with the private companies, there are a lot of businesses within the tourism industry which would do, would be very positive to improve the way they operating, to reduce and to encourage their clients to reduce their eco footprint. But it's a super complicated system. We do step by step, as also Maria said before, but it's super important, as I'm saying again and again, to encourage and empower these small players within their local communities. They are the minority within the local communities. Naxos Wildlife, for example, they've struggled for many years in order for them to make sure that they can speak loudly, and that the local press would start hosting their articles and press releases and whatever they're doing, to protect the the sea turtles on their island. So it's super complicated systems, microsystems, and ecosystem. An island is an ecosystem. So we really need to make sure that we find the right balances to do it right. But thank you so much, because all of you can become the ambassadors for this kind of sharing this information. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. We have one more question. We can listen to you. No, we had a raised hand.
I have unmuted the person who raised hand. Who was it?
Yes, Jav, but I don't see him anymore.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Good evening. Nice to see you all here. My name is Yannis Zavelakos. I am living and working on CARE. Yeah. It's been a long time since I left Athens and I moved here. I operate a TIFE center here on the island, and I am also cooperating very closely with the local municipality. I'm a member of the Committee of Tourism Development and any other issues related, actually marine issues. What I would like to let you know is that we are really happy here because last summer it was a very important milestone for us here, because I don't know if you are aware of that, but we obtained a new marine park here on the island, a protected area. I'm not sure that many of you are aware of that, but we are so happy because after so many years of efforts, there is a new underwater historic site here on Kea. Actually, is a cultural heritage underwater protected area, because here we have some important and worldwide known historic shipwrecks. And last year, as I told you, during last June, the legal reformation has been completed. It needed a lot of legal actions to be taken, laws, ministerial decisions, and also the cooperation and contribution of the Ministry of Culture, the underwater Euphrates contributed as well. And we have 3 designated areas, 360 acres each one. Actually, there are 3 squares on the map, on the sea actually, that are strictly protected due to the existence of those wrecks. But the importance of this underwater site, this protected area, is dual, because according to the legislation, any protected area like this one is strictly protected from fishing, either professional fishing or amateur. So since last summer, with the help of our Ministry of Culture, we obtained a very important protected area, especially one of those 3 areas in the southwest part of the island that this 19th century paddle wheel steamer sank, Patrice, which is a very, very important reef in terms of marine life, because regardless of the existence of the wreck down there, that reef has been very rich in terms of marine life. And so this is the first aspect, that we're really, really happy and proud of having such an important underwater park and such an important underwater protected area here. And the next thing is that we're facing a bet from now on, because we need to protect it actually, because as you know, the most popular sport in Greece is not football, it's not basketball, it's fishing. Everybody is fishing. Everybody, amateurs, professionals, coastal, big, trawlers, everybody. And there is legislation, there are lots of laws, but the problem is that there is no awareness, as this gentleman mentioned before, that people don't know what is legal and what is illegal. And the second thing comes to the local authorities that are usually claiming that are understaffed. Even when you go to the port police and report something, the feedback usually, I'm not talking about Kea, I'm talking about the whole archipelago, is that they are understaffed. So for me, I mean, it's important to go on creating publicity in any way, because publicity, media exposure will help people get aware, know, and understand about what is legal and what is not legal. And then the other solution that I think that can be applied, practically speaking, is that every Icelandic society has to create teams of volunteers that can be cooperating with the local official societies like the municipalities and the local port police, and safeguard the environment. Those are the two most important, I think, way of acting right now. Publicity and the creation of volunteers teams that can be officially part and accepted by the local societies. This is what I wanted to talk about, just to let you know that we are really happy that we have, after so many years of trying hard to set up this unique marine park. Actually, I just came back from Germany, from one of the biggest marine expos in Europe, in Düsseldorf. I was invited to make a presentation of that because it was considered as one of the most important news in Europe for 22, considering diving. I'm really happy to know about your activities, your actions, and I was not aware of your actions, and I'm really happy that I know that you exist, and I really look forward probably in the future to cooperate.
Thank you very much. I think that we fully agree on your proposal and the way of moving forward, especially for insular communities. It's a prerequisite to move like that. Otherwise, it's very difficult. I think that all of our experience and current knowledge has been based on this. So we do need to work this way. And of course, there is a multitude of legal tools to move forward, as the one you have been describing for ZIA, which is a very important tool and way to move forward. I don't know if Maria, who is also in this kind of work, would like to contribute a little bit, because I think that also that we have already over past the whole time we had. Maria, would you like to contribute a little bit, or we could move to the final video?
Yeah, thank you. So I understand that this is hello. I understand that this is a diving park by the legislation for a diving park. So again, like every wreck is supposedly protected by the Greek legislation, but still we know that it is not actually protected, Yannis. So this is the problem, that this is again one more area that is just left to the people to manage. And although I really agree that local communities can play a very important role in safeguarding protected areas, it cannot be left just up to them. So creating protected areas on maps without providing the real means and the real, frame that will actually enforce this legislation is the greatest problem that we have now, also with the marine protected areas through the Natura 2000 network. So I'm very happy for any such new initiatives, but still remain with another more area that we need to prove protected. So calling them protected is not enough for us. So good luck with this area, and we will do our best to help you any way we can.
Thank you. And we have a final video. I would like to thank you all that you were present in this webinar. I think that the knowledge that we all gained from the experts was really important, and it can move forward things. And I would like to invite you to be informed.
And thank you, Vangelis.
Okay,
You were wonderful.
We will have this webinar recorded, so it will be available for you, also with all the links on how you can use this information to support marine biodiversity. And of course, stay connected, because we have another round of webinars in the next weeks and months that will focus on other aspects of the natural environment of the Cyclades. Thank you very much for everything.
Thank you, everyone.
Stay tuned. 3 more minutes for a final CPF video for some inspiration. Good night from all us. Thank you, Dorothy. Thank you, Nasya. Thank you, Vangelis. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Nickoletta. Thank you, Sophia. Thank you, everyone.
Η ανάγκη σήμερα είναι πολύ μεγαλύτερη από κάθε άλλη φορά για την προστασία των ευαίσθητων οικοσυστημάτων, ιδιαίτερα στο πανέμορφο περιβάλλον των Κυκλάδων, το οποίο δέχεται πολλές περιβαλλοντικές πιέσεις.
Ένα από τα σημαντικότερα προβλήματα στις Κυκλάδες, που διαμορφώνει άλλωστε και το τοπίο μας περιβάλλει, είναι η διάβρωση. Είναι πολύ δύσκολο να ανακάμψει η βλάστηση μετά την υπερβόσκηση για δεκαετίες.
Ένα άλλο μεγάλο πρόβλημα που αντιμετωπίζουμε στις Κυκλάδες είναι η καταστροφή των μικρών υγροτόπων. Αυτοί οι χώροι συνεχώς συρρυκνώνονται ή και καταστρέφονται εντελώς.
Σε πολλά νησιά έχουν υπάρξει υποβαθμίσεις του τοπίου. Σε συνδυασμό με την αλλαγή χρήσης γης, με την υπερδόμηση λόγω του τουρισμού.
Οι Κυκλάδες, όντας στο κέντρο της μεταναστευτικής ροής των πουλιών, δέχονται πολύ μεγάλο όγκο από πουλιά.
Έχουμε πολλά περιστατικά τραυματισμού άγριων ζώων, θαλάσσιες χελώνες οι οποίες εκθαλασσώνονται τραυματισμένες, χτυπημένες στο κεφάλι, μαχαιρωμένες, ακόμα και τσιμεντωμένες.
Τα τελευταία χρόνια βλέπω στο βυθό της θάλασσας πολύ μεγαλύτερο πληθυσμό από αυτά τα ξενικά είδη σε σχέση με τα ψάρια τα οποία υπήρχαν στο θαλάσσιο οικοσύστημα της Ελλάδος.
Μια μεγάλη πρόκληση είναι η υπεραλίευση. Σύμφωνα με στοιχεία της Eurostat, τα ηχθειοαποθέματα έχουν μειωθεί τουλάχιστον κατά 30%.
Ο τρόπος που χρησιμοποιούμε το πλαστικό είναι τρομακτικά λάθος.
Τα καλαμάκια, τις σακούλες, τα ποτήρια του καφέ, τα πλαστικά μπουκάλια.
Τα νησιά αυτά χρειάζονται υποστήριξη για να μπορέσουν τα παιδιά μας και τα εγγόνια μας να το απολαύσουν.
Να ενισχύσουμε όσο μπορούμε τις τοπικές πρωτοβουλίες οι οποίες αρχίζουν να εμφανίζονται στα διάφορα νησιά.
Έχουμε συζητήσει για πολλές δράσεις με το CPF. Το ένα είναι η σύνδεση του βοτανικού κήπου με σχολικούς βοτανικούς κήπους ανά τις Κυκλάδες.
Για να βλέπουν και τα παιδιά αλλά και όλος ο κόσμος τι δράσεις σημαντικές μπορούμε να κάνουμε για το περιβάλλον.
Η ενημέρωση και ευαισθητοποίηση του κοινού είναι πολύ σημαντική στην προσπάθεια προστασίας του θαλάσσιου περιβάλλοντος. Και είδαμε αυτά αποτελέσματα.
Πρέπει να κάνουμε κάτι αν θέλουμε αύριο να υπάρχουν τόσο ψαράδες όσο και ψάρια.
Η προοπτική μας είναι να μεγαλώσουμε το σταθμό ώστε να έχουμε τα μέσα και την δυνατότητα να ανταπεξέλθουμε σε όλο αυτό τον όγκο των περιστατικών.
Θα ήταν εξαιρετικό να συνεχίσουμε και σε άλλα σημεία.
Και ελπίζω πραγματικά αυτή η προσπάθεια να μεγαλώσει και να συμπεριλάβει και άλλα μέρη, και άλλα νησιά και άλλους φορείς.
Η ομάδα που κερδίζει δεν αλλάζει, οπότε θα είμαστε στο πλευρό του CPF για συνέργειες, στοχευμένες δράσεις, ανταλλαγή απόψεων, έξυπνων λύσεων, καινοτομίας.
And I hope that we can all work together and that we will be able to provide financial, technical and operational support.
Τεράστιο ευχαριστώ σε όλους τους ανθρώπους που μοιράζονται μαζί μας αυτό το όραμα, στους υποστηρικτές μας, στους δωρητές μας, στους ιδρυτές φυσικά. Ευχόμαστε να γινόμαστε πλουσιότεροι από αγάπη. Join us, ας γίνουμε πιο πολλοί, ας δείξουμε έμπρακτα ότι θέλουμε να αφήσουμε πίσω κάτι σε αυτόν τον τόπο που τόσο πολλά αγαπάμε και τόσο πολλά μας προσφέρει και μας δίνει.
Στο Cyclades Preservation Fund εύχομαι να αποτελέσει πηγή έμπνευσης για πολλούς περισσότερους που θα ακολουθήσουν το καλό του παράδειγμα.
Σίγουρα ενωμένοι μπορούμε να κάνουμε πολλά περισσότερα από ότι μόνο 2, 3 ή 5 ή 10 άτομα.
Thank you, everyone. It's almost 7:30, and you are still here. It's an honor. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. See you soon.
Thank
Stay
you,
tuned.
everyone.
Thank you
Be
very
strong.
much and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Γεια σας. Καλό βράδυ. Good night.